Coming in at number 10 are the Chargers. The Chargers drop from last week. They were the number 5 team. They come down 5 spots coming off the loss at Baltimore. Tough game, but that was a game, the type of game that's going to move you up in the rankings. Now, if they played that game even tight, they could have possibly moved up in the rankings. But the fact that they got blown out as badly as they did, they dropped 5 spots here. They're going to be on a bye. This was a team that a lot of people thought after the Kansas City game, maybe the team to beat in the AFC. They get blown out by Baltimore. Maybe now Baltimore is the team to beat in the AFC. It goes week by week here. These teams at the top are all pretty good, and there's a lot of really weak teams at the bottom. So we're going to see some flip-flopping in the rankings. But the Chargers get the week off. We'll see what happens with teams that they've played already this year. How well they do next week is going to change what the Chargers ranking looks like. I wouldn't expect them to move all that much. In the 9th spot, Cleveland. 2859 is their ranking. They dropped 3 spots from 6 last week. Another team that had the chance to move up in the rankings. They played a quality top team, undefeated Arizona Cardinals, and they get blown out. Now they lose their quarterback here, so we're going to see how long they can hold on to a top 10 position. It may not be very long. They're in for a battle on Thursday Night Football. They get Denver. Pretty good defense. They didn't look good last week against the Raiders, but they played quality defense for the most part overall this year. Not one of the stronger teams. So if Cleveland does not look good in this game and at least win this game, we'll probably see them drop out of the top 10. At 8, we've got the Chiefs. They win and drop a spot. Kind of harsh, but that's the way it is. They're really close to the number 7 spot. They're only 0.09 points behind there. But there is a decent drop-off from 6. So it's going to take a lot for Kansas City to get back up into that top 5 position that we would be accustomed to them being in. But Kansas City wins last week. They didn't look great in the win. If you watch that game, a lot of sloppy plays, some turnovers. The game was tighter than the final score would indicate against the Washington football team. And that's not going to help them in the rankings here. This week, Kansas City gets Tennessee, a team that we saw upset Buffalo on Monday Night Football, but aren't ranked particularly high here. I've got them as the 14th ranked team. So it's going to take a quality performance from Kansas City. They need to win this game soundly, see what these other teams in front of them do for them to move up any significant amount of points here on the power rankings. Now, Minnesota, a bit of a surprise, coming in on the 7th spot. They have played a tough schedule. They had a nice win last week against the Panthers. Now, the Panthers are a team that we thought would drop in the rankings after they started to play some tougher competition. They play the Vikings last week at home. It's a tight game. Game goes to overtime. They actually came back in that game to get it to overtime, and they finally lose in the OT to the Vikings on a touchdown late. So that moves the Vikings from the 12th spot all the way up to 5, because I believe last week Carolina was rated 6. So that becomes a really quality win here for Minnesota. If Carolina continues to lose, that's going to diminish the Minnesota win, and we'll see them drop in the rankings for it. Do we think Minnesota stays at the 7? I don't think they do. We won't get a chance to see them this week as they do have a bye. So it'll be up to the teams that they've faced already this season as to how far up or down they're going to move on the rankings for next week. I do expect they'll probably stay in the top 10, and then the following week we'll see how they do in their matchup with Dallas. That's going to really determine how high this team can move up the rankings. In the 6th spot, the Rams. Rams bump up 3 spots. They were 9 last week. We said how they played against the Giants was really going to start determining where this team was going to go. We thought 9 was a little underrated. 6 looking a little bit more like where this team should be. They needed to take care of business against the Giants. They needed to really smoke the Giants. They were able to do that. Now, this week, they're in a similar spot. You get Detroit. You don't get many points here on the rankings for beating Detroit, so you have to beat them soundly. You've got to really go in there and beat up on Detroit, have another one of those games where you win by 20, 30 points. That's the only way we'll see the Rams move up in the rankings. Baltimore moves up 5 spots from 10. They are now ranked 5, closer to where we thought this team probably should be. but it took a really big effort against a good Chargers team. That was one of our bets last week over at the Sharp app. We liked Baltimore over the Chargers, minus the 2.5 points. Did not even come close. They dominate the Chargers in that game. So Baltimore moves up. They're in the 5 spot, and that's kind of where they look right. So as these games start going, that's where we're going to start to see the rankings look a little bit more like you may think they should look. But like I told you last week, look at the rankings, get an idea in your head as to what you think they should be. And if a team is way out of whack, don't just totally dismiss it. Look at it and wonder why. Once you can say, like, Minnesota probably shouldn't be a 7, but maybe they're a little bit better than we think they are. Take a double look at some of these teams. But Baltimore in the 5 spot looks about right. That's where they probably should be. And this week they get Cincinnati. Interesting matchup with Cincinnati. We've got Cincinnati right in the middle of the pack. They're the 16th ranked team. So it's going to take a decent performance here for them to move way up. But Cincinnati's certainly capable of winning this game. It's going to be an interesting game for sure. And we'll see where Baltimore ends up after that game on the ranking. Tampa is really rolling right now outside of that game with the Rams, where the Rams took care of them and everyone thought, boy, that was the Rams' move to become the team, the elite team maybe in the league. And then the Rams took a step back in that Arizona game. Tampa, outside of that game, has looked really, really solid. That week 1 win is looking better and better against Dallas. That was a tight game. If they played that game now, the spread would certainly not be the 7.5 that it was, or the 8 points that it was on that opening night. So Dallas win, a really quality win. Last week, Tampa beats the Eagles. The game was a 6-point game, probably not as close as that score would have indicated. They're playing unbelievable defense right now against the rush, which is what they did last year. They are by far the best team against the run. Their passing is one of the best teams. I've got them ranked number 1 right now. So this is the best offensive passing team, which is one of the strong indicators of how good a team is. Efficiency in the passing game. And you cannot rush against this team. Now, you can pass against them. This has been a good team to target in DFS for game stacks, but as far as running the ball, teams don't even try it. Tampa right now, the 4th team. They were 4 last week. They don't move any spots. They stay at 4. Dallas, coming off a win, is going to drop a spot from 2 to 3. Why is that? Well, the win last week was not against a very impressive team. New England, not nearly as good as I think a lot of people think they are. We've got them ranked down at 23. That was a tight game, of course, went to overtime. So a little bit of a knock here in the rankings to Dallas because of such a tight game with a weak team. Dallas this week has the bye. I don't expect them to move all that much here in the rankings. They have a little bit of a cushion over Tampa by about 1.4 points. So I don't know if Tampa is going to be able to do enough to get themselves above Dallas. They do get Chicago this week. They're a pretty hefty favorite. So we'll see. A blowout there could potentially get them above Dallas. But Dallas, for the time being, is in the 3 spot. Shouldn't move too much more on the bye this week. In the 2 spot, dropping from 1 down to 2 is Buffalo after losing the game on Monday night to Tennessee. Tough game. Probably should have won that game on Monday night. And the rankings, maybe in some people's rankings, they've dropped a little bit more. I don't know, the people who were just doing this with an eyeball test, but should not lose too much credit here in most people's rankings. I know Tennessee, a lot of people probably think are better than they are. Tennessee, we have as the 14th ranked team, put them right in the middle of the pack. Quality win, great win for Tennessee, tough loss for Buffalo, but they played certainly well enough, and the computer is showing that by only dropping them 1 point here this week. Buffalo is on the bye as well, so we shouldn't see too much of a move in the rankings for Buffalo this week. And number 1 on the list are the Arizona Cardinals. They move up 2 spots because, 1, we had the Buffalo loss, and they get a big win over a top 10 team, Cleveland. They pretty much handed Cleveland a beatdown. They were dominating in this game. They win it 37-14. Mayfield gets hurt. The Cardinals are rolling right now. The defense is where we're the most surprised here. This is the 2nd ranked defense on my rankings, right behind Buffalo, and they're not that far behind Buffalo after Buffalo gave up some significant chunks of yardage to Tennessee on Monday night. So you combine this solid defense with one of the best offenses in the league, Kyler Murray playing at a really high level right now. This is a very dangerous team. This week, we don't expect them to falter here much. They're the biggest favorite on the board. They get Houston, 17 and a half point favorite. They should be able to handle Houston fairly easily. And they've got a decent cushion here over Buffalo. Buffalo's on the bye. Dallas with the week off. I don't expect anyone to do enough to really be able to catch Arizona. So Arizona should stay as our number one team here with a win over Houston. They should stay the number one team going into week 8. All right, guys, that's going to do it. That's our top 10 on the week 7 power rankings over at the Sharp app. We look forward to you guys joining us in our Discord inside the app, watching all the great content, using all the tools that are going to make you a sharper better. Until next week with your new power rankings, this is Statsational. Good luck, and we'll see you soon.